Pakistan is called land of the pure. Islam is the perfect religion. The population of Pakistan in 2024 is estimated to be between 245.2 million. The following was reported by Al Jazeera, a Muslim website. Reported by Abid Hussein, published August 2023. A child was sexually abused every 2 hours in Pakistan this year, NGO says. An average of 12 children per day, or 1 every 2 hours, were subjected to sexual abuse in Pakistan in 2023, a report by a non-governmental organization says. In its half-yearly report published on Thursday, Islamabad-based NGO Sarhil said a total of 2,227 cases of child sexual abuse were reported to the authorities between January and June this year. The NGO, which has been operating since 1996, compiles its data from newspaper reports as well as from cases directly reported to them. It said there were 1,207 girls and 1,020 boys in the cases it recorded in 2023. Imshaz Ahmed Sumrar, the National Legal Aid Coordinator for Sarhil, told Al Jazeera that most of the abuse cases involved children between 6 and 15. Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, married his 6-year-old wife Aisha. Had sex with her aged 9. Muhammad set the standard. What Muhammad does, Muslims follow. Muhammad created a fetish for child brides. Muhammad al-Bukhari, born the 20th of July 810 AD. Died the 1st of September 870 AD. He collected manuscripts and wrote about Prophet Muhammad. Bukhari contains 7,563 hadith narrations across its 97 chapters. A very important figure in Islam. Bukhari even confirmed Muhammad had a 6-year-old wife who played with dolls. Narrated by Aisha. I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. The playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden. But it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Narrated by Aisha. That the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. And then she remained with him for 9 years, till his death. As for your women past the age of menstruation, in case you do not know, their waiting period is 3 months, and those who have not menstruated as well. As for those who are pregnant, their waiting period ends with delivery. And whoever is mindful of Allah, He will make their matters easy for them. Most girls get their first period when they're around 12. But sometimes it comes a few years earlier or later. Every girl's body has its own schedule. There isn't one right age for a girl to get her period. But signs to watch for include breasts starting to develop. Periods usually start about 2 years after this. Hair growing under a girl's arms and in her private parts. Seeing or feeling vaginal discharge fluid, sort of like mucus, which usually begins about 6 months to a year before a girl gets her first period. In context. The Quran chapter on divorce. This chapter mentions how a Muslim man must treat his wife upon divorce. When he can and cannot have sex with her. How he must part with her. It also states if she is menstruating or not. Quran verses 65.2 and 65.3. discuss that in detail. The medical term for the absence of a menstrual period is amenorrhea. Quran verse 65 mentions girls who have not menstruated, in other words a child. A child does not menstruate till she reaches puberty. This concludes that Islam allows a grown man to have sex with a child. How does all this fit in with grooming rape gangs? The Quran chapter 4 talks about what the right hand possess. Muslims will argue and say, the verse only applies in war and to female captives. You only have to look through the pages of history for the past 800 years which show otherwise. Secondly, what is the definition of war? Gone are those days when invaders would sit on a horse and attack nations with large armies by the border and rush back to their land with prisoners. We also have the European Convention on Human Rights and all these other marvelous laws which prevent abduction and sexual slavery in the modern world. If you look closer at the verse, it states that Muslim men can entice females with their wealth for their hand in marriage. However, they are not obligated to marry them regardless of whoever they love jihad with. Another funny verse in the Quran, in chapter 2, if something bad happens, then 2 women must be present to speak, equal to 1 man. So, the testimony of 1 man is valid but not a single woman. In other words, a female is too stupid to remember such things, so she requires help of her friend. So for example, if a Muslim woman has been raped and she has no witness, nobody to validate her story, then it is not rape. You can view this silly explanation on this Muslim website, where the Muslim scholar says that, and I quote, "She is weaker than man in these aspects, usually. Scientific and specialized studies have shown that men's minds are more perfect than those of women. And reality and experience bear witness to that. The books of knowledge are the best witness to that. The knowledge which has been transmitted by men and the ahadith which have been memorized by men far outnumber those which have come via women. This has to do with gender, i.e. the gender of men is more perfect than the gender of women." End quote. Final conclusion. Fact 1. The Quran allows sex with minors who have not reached puberty. Fact 2. Muhammad himself married a child. Fact 3. Sexual slavery is allowed. Fact 4. Little girls are constantly raped in Pakistan and the Islamic world. Welcome to the rape capital of the world. Pakistan.